Okay, everybody, we're back. Thankful for Corey Kluber to give us a few moments of his time at the end of the workout. And again, we'll have Matt Blake following, and that will conclude today's Zoom sessions. Corey, thanks again.
Sure.
Appreciate it. We can get right to it, everybody. We'll take some questions. Ken Davidoff, please unmute.
Hey, Corey. Um, I read an interview from a few years ago where you were asked about the Klubot nickname, and it sounded like you didn't love it when it first came about. Wondering if you still feel that way, and or if that's developed over time, and the fact that one of your new teammates is nicknamed the Machine makes it any easier.
I don't know if DJ's nickname has much of an impression on how I feel about that. I wouldn't say I dislike it. I think that it was maybe overplayed a little bit initially. Would just be my thought. I wouldn't say I'm for it, against it. I mean, really makes no difference to me, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I've covered you in some of those Indians postseason. I mean, you're very disciplined up in the Zoom room now, and back in the old days in the interview room. Is that just who you are, just a low key guy generally, or do you feel like with your teammates behind the scenes, you open up a little more?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think I'm ever going to be the most vocal person in a room, but I think that you know, probably as most people, the more you're comfortable you get in a situation, the more you open up to people. And I think that's part of team building. One of the things about spring training is a little bit different with the circumstances now. Regulations, small groups, things like that. But I think that's one of the important parts of spring is kind of building that clubhouse culture and everybody on the team coming together.
Thank you, Corey.
Yep.
Take another from Sweeney Murdy, WFAN. Sweeney, please unmute.
Hi, Corey. I wanted to ask you how your shoulder feels right now, and if you feel like you were able to pinpoint a little bit, maybe if the 2020 start and stop had a lot of effect on that, or if it was just natural wear and tear, if you had any sort of an idea how that occurred.
First of all, I feel really good right now. No issues with it now or anywhere along the rehab process. So that's encouraging. Honestly, like the way that I would describe it now is I feel like I'm in a normal spot for spring training. I don't feel like I'm still working on improving the shoulder or anything like that. I think it's in a spot where, obviously, like any part of your body, it takes maintenance throughout the year, but I'm not putting any more emphasis on that than I am anything else at this point. As far as why, I wish I had an answer. I spent a little bit of time probably trying to figure out an answer, but I don't think I'm ever going to. I don't think we can pinpoint to one thing as to why it did or why it did happen, why it happened when it did, anything like that. I try to focus on the things that I can control, and for me that was rehabbing to the best of my ability, and now it's trying to prepare for a season.
And one more, now that you're on your third team in 3 years, I feel like you probably have a good perspective of this. You've gotten a chance to peek behind the curtain of a few different organizations now. What do you think of the technological setup, all the advances that are there for the pitchers right now? What do the Yankees have right now compared to what you've been working with the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a first class organization. It's probably the what do you call it, the measuring stick for any professional sports organization. But I think that walking into that indoor area yesterday for the bullpen, kind of a little bit of overload at first with all the different machines, screens, all that kind of stuff. But I think that everybody in baseball probably has all that stuff to a different degree now. I think that's just kind of the direction that the game's going, whether it's pitching or hitting. I think it's just important as a player to figure out what stuff works for you, what doesn't work for you. I think that there's obviously the opportunity to, if you want it all, it's all there for you. If you want to pick and choose, what makes sense, what doesn't. I think it's just recognizing what works for you. Yep.
We can take another from Brendan Cuddy, NJ.com. Go ahead, Brendan. Please unmute.
Corey, thank you for taking the time. Do you feel like essentially like you did when you were 2018, fully healthy, or is this a new normal for you right now?
I think every year is a new normal, whether it's 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever you want to put your finger on. I think that they're all individual to each other. I think that throughout the course of the year, players are going to have different things pop up that may or may not have popped up in the past. And I think you just got to do your best to try to address them as early as possible, but address them the best you can in that current situation. If I was trying to do things exactly the same as I did when I was 25 years old, it probably wouldn't go very well for me. I think that kind of living in the now is the best way for me to approach it. And, stuff that I have now, stuff that works for me now probably didn't work then and vice versa. So I think it's just kind of try to figure it out every year, what's going to work best.
We can take another from John Schwartz, Yankees Magazine. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Corey, how are you? I know you haven't faced either one of them that much, but when there's a batter in the batter's box the size of a Giancarlo Stanton or an Aaron Judge, how does that impact a pitcher on the mound in terms of just obviously relying on the scouting report also, but just looking at the size of that player and knowing what they can do if they can make contact?
As far as, obviously their power is, probably second to none with most guys, but I think that just the presence they have in the box is pretty imposing. I think we'd all like to sit here and say, oh, I don't pay attention to, how big the guy is, how small the guy is, but it's human nature. You notice, the size of somebody when they're probably that much bigger than everybody else. So I think it's definitely there. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, but I think that obviously our job as a pitcher is to try to put all that aside. And, if you have a scouting report on somebody, no matter, what their stature is just trying to go out there and execute it.
Take a couple more. Marley Rivera from ESPN. Go ahead, Marley.
Hi, Corey. Thanks for the time. Corey, you had a lot of success and you had this very successful decade with the Indians, basically winning almost everything. And then you go to another team and only pitch one inning, which means basically in a professional uniform, you basically have only pitched for the Indians. Is it that way for you? Did you ever feel that you left the Indians in that sense? And are you very much looking forward maybe to wearing a different uniform much longer than one inning?
I sure hope it's a lot more than one inning.
Of course.
I guess I haven't really thought about it that way. I think that because the amount of time that's passed, I would probably say that, obviously it was almost 2 years ago when I got traded, or close to 2 years ago. But yeah, I think that obviously I had some great times in Cleveland. We had a lot of really good teams there, but I think that, like I said, I try to focus on the now, and the now is I play for the New York Yankees, and I think all my attention is on trying to help this team win a World Series.
And when we focus on the now, how are you a different pitcher now 10 years later? I'm not talking about the injuries. You as a pitcher, how is Corey Kluber different?
I'd like to say I've learned a thing or two. Obviously, you try to pick up on things the more time you spend around the game. I think I probably have a better understanding over the years of how to, whether it be read hitters in between starts or execute a game plan. Those are probably things that I think that I'm probably the most different than when I initially reached this level. I think back then I was still trying to learn how to decipher the scouting report or learn how to make an adjustment, start to start when guys are getting all the information they want on you, things like that. So I just think it's a constant learning process. There's, like we talked about earlier, there's so many tools for guys to use to dissect, whatever they want to dissect. And so I think it's just kind of that constant cat and mouse between hitters and pitchers. Yep.
We'll take two more. Lindsay Adler from The Athletic. Please unmute.
Hey, Corey. So for fans who may not know a lot about your breaking ball, you've said in the past that it's not a slider, not a curveball. Could you sort of describe it for people who may not have seen you throw it a lot?
Yeah, I don't know what it profiles as on a Rapsodo or a TrackMan or anything like that. I think it's different on some days. The reason that I don't necessarily give it one name or the other is just, for me, if I try to call it a curveball, then I think subconsciously I try to throw it to where, to me, it looks like a curveball. Same thing with a slider. And I don't think that that's really what allows me to throw it the best. I think that I have an idea of what I need to do to execute that pitch well. And, I just kind of rely on muscle memory more than just labeling it this or that. So I don't know. I guess the best I can give you as far as why I don't really, say curveball or slider.
Yeah, and could you just sort of describe I guess, your usage and I guess the movement of it for people who haven't seen it a lot?
Usage, I think it just depends. I think that there's going to be days where, just like every pitch is going to feel better, there's going to be days where you don't feel like you have a good feel for it and probably not going to throw it as much. Ideally, I think it's probably the pitch that I feel most confident with most often. Not to say I'm going to throw it the most, but I think that it's probably what I feel most confident with on a consistent basis. I guess as far as the movement of it, ideally it's going to be different than my cutter. They're not going to blend into each other. If that happens, it's probably not going to be a very good day.
By the way, if you hear a booming Hulk-like voice murmuring in the background, we're adjacent to Mike Harkey's office. So, we'll take a final question from Eric Boland.
Hey, Corey, from the outside, there's a lot of questions about this rotation after Garrett Cole. What's your read on the group that you'll be a part of this year?
Yeah, I get that. I get that there's some guys without a lot of experience. I get that there's some guys that are coming back from injury. But I think that as a group, we can't pay attention to that. I think obviously our job is to individually and as a group prepare ourselves the best we can, try to be as reliable and as consistent as we can, for the team. Garrett's success speaks for himself. He's one of the best pitchers in the game. So, I understand why it's looked at as Garrett and the rest. I think that, like I said, we just have to do our best job of preparing ourselves and being in a position that hopefully, pitch a lot and kind of take away those question marks at the end of the year.
And when Garrett spoke to us yesterday, he called you a true craftsman, someone he's enjoyed watching pitch over the years. How would you describe watching him over the years from afar?
I think overpowering, probably first word that comes to mind. Just the way he's able to just suffocate lineups pretty much, 3-4 times through. Obviously he's got outstanding stuff, but stuff only goes so far. I think you can see when you watch him and you pay attention, how well he understands pitching and how he can use that, extremely impressive stuff that he has to go out there and just, overpower lineups.
Thank you, Corey.
Corey, thank you for the time.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you.
it. Okay, everybody, we'll be back shortly with Matt.